All right, guys, stand for freedom, fight with Hong Kong. That's the tweet that general manager of the Houston Rockets, Daryl Morey, tweeted out and then deleted his tweet because of the backlash in the community in which he works. But we're going to discuss that, man. Are we standing for freedom or are we going to just fall because of corporate greed? Hey, this is Red Tape Podcast. Y'all stay tuned. All right, guys, like most people, I love sports. I love what it mostly stands for. I love the team aspect of it. I love what it teaches our young men and young women as far as working together and how far unity can take you in a community, in a team game. In a child sport, you can learn so much. And now in America, because of this beauty of a child sport and because of the creativity and the foresight that grown men had, people are blessed enough to play a sport and entertain us all with the athletic ability that they are blessed with. And then you have the bright minds and the brilliant minds like this guy, Daryl Morey, who graduated from MIT, so that can tell you where his mind is, and one of the analytical geniuses of the NBA, walked back a tweet about standing with Hong Kong, fighting for freedom. Oh, man, that really bugs me. I know I'm sure it bugs you guys because for us who I understand America's position as far as want to be an isolationist because they don't want to be involved in everybody's issues because number one, it costs a lot of money. And number two, everybody should be able to regulate themselves. And I get it. But when you see some people being persecuted possibly and whose sovereignty is in question or maybe under assault, they're headed to the point of being persecuted by a Chinese government who has a far-reaching and outstretching arm to take what it wants in cases. And I want to say I do know Chinese people and they are good people. But I don't know about the government. I know we've been opposed to the government and governments like theirs who have authoritarians leading them since America's been America, which is one of the reasons why America was established because we didn't want people telling us what to do, right? Taxation without representation is one of the issues. Freedom to express how they feel was another one. And now we come to a point in America that I think we have to understand that as a blessed nation, as the leader of the free world, that comes with the cost. That comes with responsibilities. A lot of times those responsibilities we do not want to deal with. We want to sit back and wait. But my thing is this, before you have to wake the sleeping giant and we have to come with a solid hand and a show of force, let's be proactive. One thing that sucked about TSA, a lot of times it's a reactive force and you do things hindsight. You do things after the fact because, hindsight 2020. So after the situation happens, we have to react and do what we can to thwart the attempt next time. It's hard to stay ahead and everything. So you have to do that. But anytime you're in a position, and America is in this position most times to get ahead of something, we have smart people, brilliant minds all around the world in our government to help us make right decisions. And one decision that I think, and I hope our government and the White House eventually say something about Hong Kong and hopefully that they get to keep their sovereignty because I know right now about maybe 1,100 people have died. There's been a threat for people in Hong Kong to be shot. I think it's gunfire in the streets. There were actually people amongst the protesters who weren't a part of the protest but were there to inflict harm on those who are protesting. So anytime you see another nation raise a flag and it doesn't look like theirs and it looks like ours, that means that's a plea for help. That's a plea to understand what freedom looks like and what freedom should be. The right to choose, the right to choice, the right to bicker like we do in our country, the right to complain, the right to grow, the right to play sports. So I agree with Mr. Moore and what he said, and I wish he didn't delete it. I know we have to provide for our families. I know you want to keep your job and you can be remorseful for it, but I think he said something that's important, and I think it needs to be said. As far as sports, you can sit back and just play sports. If that's what y'all want to do, fine, but you are part of the American culture. You're a part of this world. You're just not an athlete. You do have to say something. you do have to know what's going on. You are part of, and the reason you are part of the society, and should be a force to help people to get out and vote. Now, I know sports is entertainment, and it has its limitations in the political realm. But in this situation, I don't think this is a political issue. What the issue is, it is a human rights issue. When I see a human rights being violated to the extent of possible death, then there is something that must be done. And America must stand up and voice that we will not tolerate people being mistreated or abused in the world. And if we have to stretch our hands out to touch you, to let you to let you know and to remind you of the power that is America, then we will. I think that's one thing I like about General Mattis. He understands the importance of having allies. He understands the importance of how it all works. And we have to work with our allies, whether we have disagreements or not, whether we agree on issues, whether we have different thoughts of how things should be done. The point is that we're willing to work together. And I know it doesn't come at a cost to Americans and American lives. Trust me, I know firsthand. I understand what's going on, but there's nothing sweeter than seeing somebody have freedom. And there's nothing more heart-wrenching to see someone's freedom being stripped away or possibly being stripped away when they've done nothing to deserve it. Now, I don't know everything I don't know all the details pertaining to Hong Kong and China and whatever the case may be, but I do know and I do understand the point of liberating people and understand to protect those who are already liberated. One thing about America, the greatest thing and the one blessing that we truly have is that on two sides of us, there's a lot of water in between us. So we don't have to worry about some of those same threats that other countries have to deal with on a daily basis. Every second, every hour, are we going to war? What is happening next? We don't have those same worries. But since we do have the geographical advantage and all these things, and we do have the wealth and we do have the money to help individuals out, then we got to speak. And we see things that are being done wrong, we got to answer up. We got to answer the call. And that's one thing we used to love about those commercials growing up. As far as seeing all the military, the armed forces answering those calls and doing what they got to do. Right, wrong, and indifferent, we show up. We free people. Not everybody agree with it. I understand people not want us on their foreign soil. So that's why it's great and it's important for us to speak. And that's important for us to be throughout the world to do the things necessary to keep peace in the world. Because small conflicts, as we know, looking at World War I, can put a whole world at war. Believe it. And then have to go back to war. So we have to have that mentality of not just getting everybody business, but helping to keep the world free, knowing that we're blessed. And one reason why I believe we have been so blessed is because we have been willing to help those who needed the help. So I hate that Mr. Morey backtracked his comments, and I see the greed in the NBA because China is in their pockets. But you do have to remember this one thing. If you can stand up and fight for Colin Kaepernick and what he believes, you can stand up and fight for something like this as well. Because I think it's an issue too. I know it's an issue. And even though it's on the international stage and some people say an exec don't have the right to speak on an incident like that, well, I beg to differ. I believe people will support you in that if you stand up for it. But all this backtracking and having to rewind and rethink and I shouldn't have said this or that, stand up for what you believe in. There's nothing wrong with telling somebody that you stand for freedom and you stand with Hong Kong. Hey, China, I respect you. I understand this business. No disrespect to you, but if you're impeding on somebody's rights and freedom, guess what? There's a problem and something must be said about it. So I'm glad he shed light on it and honestly show that the NBA, well, sports in general, and the athletes that play and the people in these positions in these sports, in these different types of sports, actually have voices. Now you just see different times where all these different shows where they look like they can't speak and they really dance around the subject of China, because I don't know if China's in ESPN pockets or all these other people's pockets, but if you got a platform and you are able to speak up. But just make sure it's intelligent, articulate, and you're respecting others. Now, if the truth disrespects you or make you feel some way about yourself, then you need to check yourself. Because the truth hurts, and we all know it hurts. And the truth is, if people are being put in bondage or the possibility of being persecuted or anything like that, then somebody must speak up always. Just me as a Christian myself, no, I can't sit back and see somebody being persecuted and say it's okay. I can't turn my head the other way because that wouldn't be Christ-like, because I'm supposed to love everybody. I can't look the other way for the sake of keeping myself out of harm's way. No, we got to rush in. And sometimes you're not going to have an understanding. You have to just pray and go. Now, in this situation, we can look at it from afar. So just make sure y'all continue praying for these individuals. Hey, Mr. Morey, I hope he stands up. Don't backtrack. I understand you're in business with these people, but let's make sure that we understand freedom and also understand that greed should never take the place of freedom, because people are greedy is how people become, how people lose their freedom and how they end up in bondage. See, when I see things like this, it's almost time for the NBA. I almost maybe not want to watch it because of this. The NBA backtracking and China doing what it do. Who cares? NBA, you're an American sport. I understand you're on an international stage, but there's more people. I know China got a lot of money, but you're an American sport. I think that's still something to be proud of in America, is originating in America. I think it's something still great and beautiful about America, I hope, for those who live here. I hope so. And I think this is one thing, our ability to voice our opinion, freedom of speech, and stand up when everyone else is kneeling down. Oh, man, we got to stand. All right, guys? Y'all just remember that. Hey, this is the Red Tape Podcast. I'm your host, Demerious Nelson. This is brought to you by For the One Media, as always, because guess what? We're moving progressively forward in a conservative way. We're always going to fight for freedom on this show. We're going to make sure people are liberated. And first thing, we're going to start by liberating the mind, because some people may not ever be able to get out of physical bondage, but we can free them in their mind, and they can live happier than people who are actually free physically. Hey, y'all remember that, guys? Remember to keep striving for excellence in everything that you do. Peace.